Welcome to the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Brooks, and here you'll find teaching topics, interviews, conversations, and coaching tips, all designed to help you level up. We all lead someone. The question is, are we leading well, exceptionally well? So join me on a quest, not for perfection, but absolutely for exceptional leadership. Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about something that every leader needs to hear. We're going to discuss something that frankly is a little bit of a silent epidemic among those who deal with the daily pressures of having so many people bring their problems, their complaints, their concerns, and they just basically dump them into a leader's lap. And what happens is over time, there can be an accumulating effect if you do not take intentional mental breaks and emotional escapes so that you can restore your soul, get away from all of that pressure, relieve some of the stress. If you do not do that, over time, I promise it catches up with you. I know this from my personal experience. Unfortunately, I've had to learn this the hard way, but also through years in my P4 power coaching practice of working with leaders in various industries. I don't care what kind of organization that you work for or you own. If you are in a leadership position and you are not intentional to schedule and follow through on mental breaks and emotional escapes, it will catch up with you. So today we're going to first start out. I'm going to tell you the story of a leader, and this is basically a compilation of a lot of different leaders that I have worked with and that I know personally. And we're going to talk about this silent epidemic of burnout among leaders. So I'm going to give the main character's name as Sam. And so in some aspects, you might say that it's a fictional account, but it is a fictional account based on absolute reality. I deal with Sams all the time, male and female. This is not a gender issue. This is not a personality issue. You may approach the exhaustion, the mental fatigue a little bit differently based on gender or personality, and you will, but it still comes for everyone if you do not exercise intentionality. And if you're going to be an exceptional leader, which is what this podcast is all about, then I want to urge you, I want to educate you, I want to support you in protecting yourself from this wily enemy of leaders. I do not want to see you fall victim to the relentless demands of your role when frankly it's preventable. So let's talk about this Sam, okay? And again, this could be male or female. In this podcast, I'm going to use the pronouns for male, but ladies, if you're in leadership, and I know some of you listening are, easily applicable to us as well. But, Sam is like the epitome of a dedicated leader. And in the case I'm going to talk about, we're going to just imagine that he founded the company. Not all of the leaders that I work with are in that position, but many are. But even if you're not a founder of a company, even if you are not an entrepreneur, even if you are not an owner, still, when you are an exceptional leader, you treat that business as if you owned it yourself. You have that kind of passion and commitment. So whether you are a literal founder of a company or not, again, I believe this is applicable. But this person, this Sam, has a relentless work ethic. And again, most of the leaders that I have known share the same. They believe in leading by example, and Sam absolutely did. And he needed to be the first one in and the last one out at the end of the day. If anybody else beat him to work, or if he left before someone else, he had this inner voice that would almost tell him that he failed somehow during the day. And this is a commonality amongst many leaders. You don't hear about this much, but I can tell you in private conversations, many times this comes to the forefront. So this is one of the reasons that often leaders will easily work 70 hours or more, because they feel this inner drive, this inner need to make sure that they are exemplifying work ethics that are just out of the roof. So you will have leaders who feel like, if I am not working more than anybody else, I'm not setting that right example. I'm not doing a good enough job. And frankly, it can eat away at them. And I'm going to tell you, if any of that resonates with you at all, you are in need of giving yourself permission, but also knowing that it's crucial for you to be intentional to take mental breaks and emotional escapes. Because you see, in the case of this story about Sam, after the years went by, he continued to find himself dealing with an ever-increasing workload. I mean, how many of us know that no matter how hard we work, the next day, there's more work to be done? Sometimes we didn't get to accomplish everything on our list from the previous day. And so that means not only do we have the new day's list, but we have some things left over from the previous day. And there's an accumulation that can take place with that wears on the soul, feeling as if you never can get it all done, that you never can accomplish enough. And so it's a fallacy. It's improper thinking, frankly. But if you begin to fall in that kind of a mindset, it can start making you feel like, what's the point? Why bother? Why keep trying? And you may be a younger leader or newer in a leadership role. And so you may think, oh, no, I've got energy and I can accomplish those things. No, those things don't bother me. You can tell yourself that now, but I can promise you, I don't care how energetic you are. If enough time lapses and you are not intentional about mental breaks and emotional escapes, over time, burnout will come for you. And that's what burnout looks like. When you start feeling like you can never do enough, when you start to feel like you can never accomplish enough, that your efforts aren't making a difference or not making enough of a difference, that is symptomatic of burnout. And that chronic fatigue that comes from many leaders that they try to mask and they try to hide until, frankly, it magnifies to the point they can't do that anymore. And I've seen many a leader just almost like hit a brick wall and become non-functional, or they just suddenly walk away because they can't take it anymore. They've carried that weight silently and feeling alone in it for so long that the heaviness has just bore down on them and it's broken their spirit. Don't want that to be you. And I want to promise you, this is not going to be like a doom and gloom podcast, all right? So don't feel like, oh my gosh, like I can't deal with this. No, we're going to talk about some solutions, some positives. There's a lot of things that you can do and you can prevent this. You can protect yourself from this. And again, I know this from experience. I am an energetic gal today. At this stage in my life, I'm very energized. The reason is because of intentionality. I've been through periods where I've dealt with that chronic fatigue. I've certainly experienced burnout, but I've learned coping skills that help me realize I don't have to stay stuck there. And I don't want you staying stuck there either. So again, if any of the chronic fatigue or burnout things resonate with you, don't let that make you feel even more depressed or dark. let that be a catalyst that says, you know what? Today is the day I'm going to start making changes. Today is the day I am going to take my life back. Today's the day I'm going to start working toward becoming an even more exceptional leader because I'm going to refill myself, rejuvenate myself so much that I'm going to be better for the people that I'm responsible for, the people that I guide on a daily basis. So let's get back to Sam. So as he did continue dealing with this workload and the business expanded and grew, and many times we don't realize how much additional weight growth puts on us, right, as leaders. But it does. And it's okay. It's a natural part of that process. But if you don't put some systems and processes in place, then it can fall on your shoulders and you're carrying the brunt of that weight. Now, that's not the way it should be. Exceptional leadership creates a balance of the load. So you want to make sure that as you're bringing on more customers and employees and new responsibilities are coming, that you are delegating. Okay, we hear about delegation and leadership all the time. I discuss delegation with the leaders that I work with in P4 Power Coaching on a regular basis. But I will tell you, you'd be amazed as much as we hear about it, how many leaders struggle to truly delegate and release work responsibilities to other people. And so they hold on either to all of it, they almost become territorial, they hoard work. And I know that may sound weird, but I'm telling you, I see it on the regular. So people who do that, though, then they also parallel to creating the situation themselves, they'll feel an inner resentment grow. They will become bitter sometimes. They'll even blame other people when frankly, it's because they're not willing to release and let go of some jobs and trust their people. They aren't willing to train adequately so their people are equipped. They don't always provide the tools and resources that are necessary for their people to do the best job possible. They don't invest the time and the energy and sometimes even the money that's required to set their people up to succeed. And so what they do is they'll tell themselves over and over, see, yep, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done right. I just have to do it myself. When that's not accurate. A lot of times what we need to do as leaders is we really do need to take a hard look at ourselves and ask ourselves, did we really check all the boxes to make sure that we not only delegated, not only gave someone a directive, but gave them everything they needed to do that job exceptionally well? So that's one thing, is good delegation. But as Sam's workload grew and as he was hoarding work and not consciously realizing that he was doing it, the emotional demands of his role also were rising. So employees were more and more relying on him for guidance. Customers were expecting quick answers and solutions. Investors were pushing for growth. And Sam found himself absorbing the stress and emotions of everyone around him. And yet he was not intentional to make sure he had an outlet to express his own feelings. And see, a lot of times in leadership, we want to avoid the feeling conversation. We even want to avoid the words emotions or feelings. But here's the thing, there's emotion built in every human interaction. And even when we try to tell ourselves that we're not emotional, I will tell you, let me spend a few minutes alone with you and I'll show you where your emotions come into play and your emotions impact the decisions you make, the choices that you make in the daily of your leadership habits. So we need to be honest about those emotions. But as leaders, we also have to be careful that we don't begin taking on everyone else's emotions and then become angered over that, embittered by that. And again, this is a very common thing that can happen. So in Sam's case, the constant pressure of all that took a toll. He began to lose sleep and his concentration suffered. And he was increasingly short and irritable with people. So people, that edginess that he was projecting, people began to avoid him, or oftentimes, like, they'd say just the bare minimum of what they needed to say so they could hurry and escape, Sam's wrath. Well, what was taking place then? Communication was not always full. All of the information was not always shared because people were in that mode of trying to get away from Sam. And so that would just add and heap more problems onto the other problems as well. And then for Sam, the work which once brought him joy and satisfaction, it began to feel like an insurmountable mountain for him. He had become burned out and he was mentally and emotionally exhausted. And that mental and emotional exhaustion was starting to parlay into physical symptoms as well. So he just felt tired. He felt like no matter how much sleep he got, he never felt rested. When he tried to go to bed at night, insomnia just began to take over, and he'd never experienced that before in his life. And so there were all these clear signs that Sam was in a state of burnout, but he did not recognize it at first. He actually just kept trying, different things and thinking that he could do what he had always done, push a little bit harder, pull himself up by the bootstraps. All those leadership things that we tell ourselves, but you can only do that for so long. And sometimes the answer is the opposite of what instinct tells us. Leadership instinct tells us if we just work harder and longer, then we'll finally get things caught up and then we'll be able to get some rest. But in fact, that really doesn't happen. If we don't schedule some downtime, if we don't schedule and give ourselves a break, we keep trying to push harder, we keep trying to work longer, all it's going to do is exhaust us further, and we're not going to do anything well. Sam's long hours and his refusal to delegate and his relentless dedication to the job were leading him down a path to destruction. He had been running on adrenaline for so long and ignoring his need for rest and emotional care that not only was it starting to affect all areas of his health, his physical health, mental health, emotional health, but it was also affecting his relational health. So he was having chronic issues with his spouse. He was having chronic issues with his children, to the point that the relationships were almost non-existent between his wife and his children. And there are leaders out there who know what I'm talking about. They can maybe, generate enough energy during the day at work to wear a mask. But when it comes time to being around their family, one, there's not very much time spent with the family to begin with. But when they are with them, the mask is too heavy. They can't wear it any longer. And so what do? Sometimes they take it out on the people that they should be the closest with, the people that they should have the healthiest relationships with. And so they take that for granted, and that trust, if you will, that they have with the people that they love, that they can actually take advantage of that to the point that it can break those relationships. So there's so many dangers in this. And so while dedication and hard work are commendable, we all need to be balanced with self-care, and we need to be intentional about our mental and emotional well-being. And this is why I am such a proponent of scheduling mental breaks and emotional escapes. This is not just stuff and fluff, guys. This is something that if you are going to be a long-term leader, you need to hear it and you need to apply it to your life, because leadership is a marathon and it's not a sprint. If you're going to be a leader and you're going to lead exceptionally well, then avoiding burnout isn't just about preserving your health. It's also about sustaining your capacity to lead effectively. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And if you've listened to my podcast at all, you've probably heard me say, an empty cup has nothing in it to pour into other people. So if you've poured yourself out and you have run dry and you're not doing anything to refill your cup, then you're going to let the people down that you're supposed to lead, the people you want to lead. So you owe it to your team, you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your family to make sure that you do everything you can to keep that cup refilled, so that you do have something to pour into other people, and you have something that's positive, healthy, productive, that leads not only to other people's happiness, but your own sense of fulfillment, because you know that you're doing things exceptionally well. So just think about this. Think about Sam and where he landed, and ask yourself, is that what you want to be as a leader? Is that who you want to be? Is that how you want to present to the people that you lead? Of course not. None of us wants to be ineffective. None of us wants to be so exhausted that we practically have to pull ourselves out of bed in the morning. None of us wants to feel that guilt, that inner shame maybe that we don't talk about to anybody else, because we know we're not doing our job to our highest capability, or we're not doing our job like we used to be able to do it. But I've got good news. It does not have to be that way. You don't have to land there, because you can take some steps to erase some of that burnout and chronic fatigue if you're already there, or to protect yourself so it doesn't happen to you. So let's talk about some things that we can do as leaders that can help us take those mental breaks, emotional escapes that are going to refuel us, that are going to energize us, that are going to spark our creativity again, that are going to sharpen our focus. Because I'm going to tell you, there's science that backs up the fact that when we step away sometimes and we go do something entirely different, that like our brains get a rest and they get refreshed. And not only do we have greater energy, we have greater endurance. And there are new ideas that come when, frankly, no matter how hard we tried to pull an idea out of our minds, we couldn't do it because we were just so tired. So there are things that you can do to bring that back. You can improve your focus. You can start sparking that creativity in yourself again, because our brains were not wired for prolonged periods of concentration. Our brains are wired to do some things that are fun and playful, or just restful, soothing to the spirit. So when we allow ourselves regular breaks, we give our minds the chance to reset. And that leads us to increased productivity, improved decision making when we do return to the task at hand. So I talked about like the mental breaks helping spur creativity. Well, so let me ask you a question. Have you ever noticed how your best ideas often come when you're in the shower, or you're taking a walk, or you're just going for a drive and maybe listening to music, or maybe, just sitting in silence in the car? The reason that happens is because when your mind is relaxed, it's free to make connections and generate new ideas. There's actually different parts of the brain that fire up when we're in a relaxed state. that when we're stressed and tense and we're focusing hard, that those are, I think of it this way. Okay, this is maybe not the scientific way to say it, but this is what I think. It's like when we're tensed up like that, it's like it squeezes some of those areas in our brain that can generate those ideas and thoughts, and it squeezes them out so they're not able to flow freely through. So when we take some rest and we're intentional about that, well, all of a sudden it opens things up and all of these great ideas come together. And that's one of the reasons I'm a proponent of brainstorming, because to me, if you do brainstorming well, and I believe in doing it with a good facilitator, and I am a certified facilitator, and so I know this works. But the reason that I'm such a proponent of that is because part of what you do in facilitating is you facilitate so that everybody feels more relaxed. Because when we're relaxed, that's when those awesome ideas come. Those things that we never would have thought of otherwise. The ideas, by the way, that lead to greater productivity and performance, which ultimately leads to higher net profitability. And again, P4 Power Coaching, my mission is to increase the income, prime the profits, and strengthen the sustainability for American businesses. So that's one of the ways, is being able to get everyone in a relaxed state so it can open up their minds and we can come up with those great ideas that lead to the objectives and outcomes that we're looking for. Well, another thing to think about is if we take regular breaks, it reduces our stress. And leadership comes with its fair share of pressures. And without regular timeouts, we run the risk of chronic stress. And chronic stress is especially dangerous because you get used to feeling that way. You actually, and I again know this from experience, you can actually get to the point that you forget what it feels like to not be stressed. And I can give you an example from my own life. For too many years, I got used to chronic stress. I had a very high pressured leadership role in a corporate type of a culture. I had a lot of people I was leading. Frankly, I was leading too many people for one person. A lot of responsibility. And there were times I was working 80 to 100 hours a week. And I do not say that to brag, because I'm telling you, it is not something to brag about. It was very unhealthy. But what happened to me was when I would take a vacation, it would take me 3 to 4 days to come down from all of that chronic stress that I was so used to allow myself to be able to relax at all. And my poor family. So like here, we're supposed to be on vacation and my husband's complaining like, by the end of day 1 and certainly on day 2 and day 3, are you ever going to relax? Are you ever going to quit thinking about work? Because I had become so conditioned and accustomed to the chronic stress, I had forgotten how to turn it off. Now, I've since incorporated a lot of things in my life so that I've overcome that. And I love it because now when I go on vacation, it's like, whoop, I'm on vacation mode. As I'm recording this podcast right now, I'm getting ready to take a long weekend. I can tell you when I finish the work that I have for today, it's going to be like, oh, it's weekend time. And I am going to be in that state and I'm going to be more in a playful place and I'm going to be in a fun mode because you know what? It's going to make me better at my job. It's going to make me a better leader for my team because when I come away from the long weekend, I'm going to be rejuvenated and I'm going to have, fresh ideas that come because my mind is rested and relaxed. So I will increase my performance next week after this. Now, let's talk about, the fact that if you have chronic stress, it can lead to a multitude of health problems in addition to decreased performance and decreased effectiveness. So if you go with this for a long enough time and you don't learn how to decompress, you are a prime candidate for hypertension, for high blood pressure, for heart issues, even possibly cardiac arrest, fatality, diabetes. Even some cancers have been linked to stress. I know in the past, I ended up having very serious thyroid issues. Guess what? It was stress-induced. That's where it came from. So not only for your mental and emotional well-being do you need to be intentional, but you need to do it for your own physical health and for the longevity of your life. So keep that in mind. Emotional escapes, on the other hand, these are things where, yes, it's in addition to that mental break, but it's where you intentionally step away from the thoughts that drive the emotions that create that toll on your life. And if you're going to be an exceptional leader, you need to allow yourself to emotionally detach from the weight of responsibility that sometimes you put on your own shoulders. Now, maybe some others are putting some of that responsibility on your shoulders as well. But if that's inappropriate, then you need to have the courage to, I'm just going to say, fight for yourself. And I'm not saying that I want you to be antagonistic. I'm not saying that I want you to go fight with someone. But I am saying you do need to be willing to have the courage to rise up and protect yourself. Don't allow someone else to put you in a dangerous situation where it could be very costly, even possibly to your own life. You need those emotional escapes. And there is a very clear and factual argument that you can make that says, I'll be able to do a better job for you if you won't continue heaping the pressure on. Because I know some leaders that even when they try to get a day off or on their days off, or let's say they're on vacation and they've got people that are texting and calling and emailing. And if they're not quickly responsive, even though they're not supposed to be working right now, then there are others who are pushing and complaining and sometimes even threatening about that. Let me tell you, that's an unhealthy, toxic situation. And you are not going to be able to sustain effective leadership under that kind of pressure. So you do need to be able to fight for yourself. But when I say that, I mean fight in a healthy way, in an objective way. You need to be able to paint the picture that you're going to do a better job if you are able to get away for a mental break and emotional escape. I can tell you that for some leaders, I've actually helped them sit down and paint those pictures. And when you do, you put numbers to it. I can literally support and back up and verify how numbers are impact. I'm talking about financial numbers, performance, productivity numbers are effective in a positive way because people got to step away. So you need to be able to do that for yourself as a leader so you can be better at your job. And you need to think for yourself, and you may need to verbalize to others that it's not just your own emotions that you're managing. You're also managing the emotions of all the people who are bringing theirs to you. Because how many of us know that when someone brings a problem or a complaint or a concern, there's always emotion beneath that. And so not only are they laying the problems in your lap, they're laying their emotions in your lap as well. And so you have to respond to that. It is part of leadership. We all have to do it. But sometimes you have to appropriately manage the amount, volume, and timeliness of how much emotion you're allowed to be placed on you before you say, you know what, I'm scheduling a break. Because this will be emotionally, mentally, and physically draining for you as a leader if you don't have healthy boundaries around this. If you don't schedule intentional and consistent, regular mental breaks and emotional escapes. But when you allow yourself, whether that's through getting, away, sometimes it's things that you can even do during the day. And next week, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about in the next podcast how you can do some things throughout your day to get mental breaks and emotional escapes. But however you do it, whether it's like going into the bathroom and just like meditating for a few minutes or praying for a few minutes or thinking happy thoughts for a few minutes, maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's taking up a hobby that allows you to just be able to like disconnect from all the pressures and to be able to just let yourself go to a relaxed state. I know right now I'm working on something really cool for ladies in leadership. So if you're a woman and you're listening to this, and if you want to know more, send me an email at info@anitabrooks.com. P4 Power Coaching is actually working on creating some ladies in leadership retreats. And so we'll have a little bit of an educational aspect to it, but a lot of it, well, not a lot of it, all of it is designed to refill your cup. So when you go back, you're going to do a better job. But it's not because we're just going to be like filling your head with nothing but education. We're also going to do some activities and exercises that are designed for you to use different parts of your brain that help you relax, help you get that mental break and emotional escape so that you are refreshed. It does stimulate different creative thinking. And when you go back to work, you're going to be much more effective. You're going to be exceptional. So you can think about that. Men, what is it for you that allows you to relax? There's a reason why a lot of men in leadership, well, women too, I shouldn't say that this is not just a male thing, but, like to play golf. Because it does use a different part of your brain. There is still some strategy and some goals and missions and things like that, targets that are involved that many leaders who have powerful personalities are energized by, but it's in a different way. It's more playful. And so that can help spur some things. For some, it's just going out and doing some, physical exercise, going for a walk or a run or something, or playing some kind of a sport that you love. I know some leaders that for them, it's hunting and fishing. For some, it's cooking, baking, but do something, come up with something that allows you to escape the everyday pressures of that leadership role. For some, it's spending time with loved ones. And for some of you, maybe you need to be intentional to make spending time with loved ones one of the things that you plan and you execute on that gives you the break that you need. Maybe you need to rekindle some things with your spouse, rekindle that love, that spark. And it may feel awkward at first. Again, I've been there. I've been married a long time. So I can tell you that it doesn't always feel easy and free in marriage. Sometimes it does feel awkward and uncomfortable because you've gotten out of the habit of being playful and romantic with each other. If that's the case, then you don't need to avoid that. You need to run into it and you need to start working toward learning how to feel good being in each other's presence again. Looking into each other's eyes, being playful together, going and doing some fun things. That awkwardness, that discomfort that you feel at first because it's been a while and you have gotten out of practice, I promise if you keep pushing through, and this is one thing I would encourage you to push through on, then it will start to dissipate. It does come back, but it's not just like riding a bike. You don't just get on and start pedaling if things have reached that state where you do feel very uncomfortable with each other. It takes practice. It keeps doing it again and again. And using the bike analogy, sometimes it feels like your feet are slipping off the pedals. Sometimes it feels like you crash into a tree. Don't give up. Get back on. Keep riding. But if you've got people in your life that you love, you have loved, maybe sometimes you feel like the love has gone away, then one of the best things that you can do for mental breaks and emotional escapes is to get intentional to start restoring those relationships. If it's with your children, stop making promises that you break. If you tell them you're going to do something with them, do it. Follow through. There's nothing that breaks a child's heart more than for their parent to tell them that they're going to do something and then they don't do it. Don't be that parent. Be that person that they can count on. Be that parent who cares enough about their child that no matter how harried or hurried they are, they make time to spend with their kids to show them that they love them. Okay, enough of that. Sorry, getting a little deep there. Another thing you can do sometimes just to, for a mental break or an emotional escape is just, enjoy a good movie. This morning, I met with someone for coffee. I try to do that on a regular basis. I have a circle of people that I try to schedule and work my time in to be very intentional in those relationships. And as we were talking this morning, we were talking about how her fun meter is broken. She needs to fix her fun meter, but because of life circumstances and many of them that are beyond her control, she's limited in what she can do. And so one of the things that we talked about and that she agreed she could do is she could schedule at least one, if not 2 times a week to watch a funny movie and just to become more intentional about laughing. Because as she said to me this morning, and it was so sad to see the tears well up in her eyes, she said, I've realized I don't smile and I don't laugh very much anymore. In leadership, that can happen to a lot of us. And so we can correct that by scheduling even some small things, whether it's a funny show we used to like or, funny movies or that type of thing, but giving yourself permission to recharge emotionally. We all need to do it. Emotional escapes promote better emotional intelligence. And when we spend time away from work-related emotions, we gain better insight into the landscape of our own feelings. And that in turn can help you manage your emotions more effectively in a professional setting. It can help you manage the emotions of your people more objectively when they come to you with their situations. Because a lot of times we don't even realize it's happening to us. But when our people bring things to us, we get caught up in their emotions. And because our own emotions are out of sorts, we're not managing theirs or ours very well. But sometimes that emotional escape can give you what you need to have increased empathy, which is a key leadership skill. If you work on giving yourself those breaks and engaging in activities that replenish you mentally and emotionally, then you'll be more likely to approach your team's feelings with understanding and compassion, as well as objectivity, which, by the way, all of those are characteristics and traits that many employees have said have kept them loyal to a leader. The lack of understanding and compassion and objectivity from a leader has driven many a good team member to go somewhere else. And in today's world, we can't afford that. So the message is clear. Regular mental breaks and emotional escapes are not luxuries. They are necessities if you're going to be an exceptional leader. They not only enhance your leadership capabilities, but they also contribute to your overall well-being. They're going to allow you to stay in leadership longer and to be a more effective leader. Remember, you cannot pour anything out of an empty cup. So refill yours intentionally and often. And by doing that, then you will be leading exceptionally well. And remember, I care about you. I care about your feelings, your emotions. I care about your ability to lead well, effectively, efficiently. And I'm here to support you in making sure that you exercise everything that you need to so that you can be the very best version of your leadership self possible. So if you're struggling, shoot me an email, info@anitabrooks.com. I'm pretty responsive. And I've got a lot of resources and things that I can offer that may be able to help. And if there's anything that I can do to help you in your organization, P4 Power Coaching, we're here for you as well. But I'm serious and I'm passionate that I want to see American businesses thrive. And they can only do that if leaders are taking care of themselves so they can take care of others. Well, until next time, I'll remind you again, stay intentional, be exceptional. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. There's magic in meeting with an objective, and I always have an objective for you, not only in these episodes, but also from the other resources I offer on my website, anitabrooks.com. That's ANITABROOKS.com. There you'll find information on digital courses, webinars, books, workbooks, of course, my in-person P4 Power Coaching for businesses and organizations. And if you need a speaker for your conference or your strategic retreat, I'm your gal. But I'm also excited to let you know about a new service that we're offering. For less than half the price of a daily Starbucks latte for a month, you can join our P4 Power Coaching community. This is a monthly membership where you'll get insider tips. And you'll also be able to join our monthly Zoom meetings that are one part strategy sessions, one part mastermind, one part networking, one part coaching. I can promise you, you'll not only learn from me, but you'll learn from others in the group. We'll also have monthly webinars as part of the P4 Power Coaching community, and we'll have coaching resources and exercises. And you'll get first opportunities and special offers for many of the other things that we have to offer. And of course, you will get leadership encouragements. The P4 Power Coaching community is all about growth, success, and celebrating our wins. And remember, it's never too late for a fresh start with fresh faith. So embrace your exceptional leadership impact with fresh resolve to make the difference you were made for.